Nigerian Christians and local farmers are bleeding, scared, and displaced due to the ongoing genocide in Nigeria's northern and central regions. Faith has become a battlefield. Across dusty plains and forgotten villages, churches that once rang with songs of praise now lie silent, their walls scorched and altars destroyed. For thousands of Christians, Sunday worship has turned into an act of courage, a statement of survival. In the midst of this human tragedy, one man across the ocean, the almighty US President Donald J. Trump, spoke up in defense of persecuted Christians, calling the world's attention to the bloodshed that too often goes ignored. In a publication made on his Truth social media account, he said, "If the Nigerian government continues to allow the killing of Christians, the USA will immediately stop all aid and assistance to Nigeria, and may very well go into that now disgraced country, guns a-blazing, to completely wipe out the Islamic terrorists who are committing these horrible atrocities. I am hereby instructing our Department of War to prepare for possible action. If we attack, it will be fast, vicious, and sweet, just like the terrorist thugs attack our cherished Christians. Warning: the Nigerian government better move fast." What will be the implications of US action, invasion, and intervention on Nigeria's sovereign territory? This is another question many are asking. Nigeria, Africa's most populous nation, is deeply divided by religion and region. The predominantly Christian South and the largely Muslim North have coexisted uneasily for decades. Yet in recent years, that fragile coexistence has been shattered by waves of violence. Attacks from extremist groups like Boko Haram and the Islamic State West Africa Province, ISWAP, as well as from armed militias often described as Fulani herdsmen. What began as communal clashes over land and cattle has evolved into targeted killings, kidnappings, and the systematic destruction of Christian communities. Human rights groups have documented thousands of deaths in states such as Benue, Plateau, Kaduna, Taraba, and Borno. Entire villages have been wiped out. Pastors have been kidnapped. Church buildings have been reduced to ashes. Each attack leaves behind widows, orphans, and displaced families who wonder whether the world has forgotten them. One of the most horrifying incidents occurred on June 5, 2022, when gunmen stormed St. Francis Catholic Church in Ondo State. It was a Sunday morning. Families had gathered to celebrate Pentecost when explosions ripped through the sanctuary. Within minutes, more than 40 worshippers were dead, and many others were critically injured. The images shocked the nation, yet such violence had become a grim routine. In Plateau State, entire Christian villages have been ambushed at night, men hacked down, women and children burned alive, and homes looted. The victims are rarely given justice. The killers often vanish into the bush, leaving behind bodies and ashes. As these atrocities multiplied, President Donald Trump, then out of office but still a powerful global voice, issued strong public statements condemning the killings. Speaking through social media and interviews in late October 2025, he described the ongoing violence as an existential threat to Christianity in Nigeria. He ordered the United States government and the Department of War to immediately designate Nigeria as a country of particular concern under the International Religious Freedom Act, a label reserved for nations that commit or tolerate severe violations of religious liberty. Trump's call echoed earlier actions during his presidency, when his administration had already placed Nigeria on a watch list in 2020. But this new statement was louder, clearer, and more urgent. He declared that the persecution of Christians was intolerable and warned that the US could impose sanctions or limit military assistance if the Nigerian government failed to act. For many Christians in Nigeria, Trump's words felt like a rare moment of validation. At last, someone powerful was speaking out. For years, survivors had pleaded for global attention. Their stories had often been buried beneath headlines about politics, oil, or terrorism. But now, their cries reached Washington once again. The question became, what could America really do? To understand the stakes, one must see how complex the Nigerian crisis truly is. Boko Haram, whose name means Western education is forbidden, began its insurgency in 2009, aiming to create an Islamic State. The group's attacks have killed tens of thousands and displaced millions. Churches, schools, and markets have been bombed. In response, the Nigerian army launched massive operations, but the insurgency spread into neighboring Niger, Chad, and Cameroon. In parallel, in the country's middle belt, long-standing disputes between farmers and herders escalated into full-scale assaults, often along religious lines. While not all Fulani herdsmen are militants, armed factions within their ranks have launched devastating raids on Christian communities. The results are eerily similar to terrorism: burned churches, executed pastors, abducted girls, and scorched fields. The international community's response has been mixed. The Nigerian government insists that the violence is criminal rather than religious, attributing it to bandits or communal disputes. Yet human rights organizations and church leaders argue that the scale and pattern of attacks, often targeting Christian villages and clergy, reveal deeper motives of religious cleansing. Reports from groups like Aid to the Church in Need, Open Doors, and International Christian Concern have described Nigeria as one of the most dangerous places in the world to be a Christian. Trump's renewed call to action in 2025 reignited the debate. Could the United States pressure Nigeria to do more? Under the International Religious Freedom Act, a country of particular concern designation allows Washington to impose sanctions, restrict aid, or engage in direct diplomatic pressure. In practice, such designations serve as both a warning and a tool for accountability. For example, under the Trump administration, countries like Myanmar and North Korea faced restrictions for similar reasons. By advocating this approach again for Nigeria, Trump was effectively asking the US to confront an African ally on human rights grounds. Critics accused him of playing politics with religion, but supporters said his stance was morally right. Yet the truth remains, words alone will not stop bullets. For change to happen, concrete actions are needed both locally and internationally. The Nigerian government must strengthen its justice system, ensure fair prosecutions, and dismantle impunity. When attackers are caught, they must face trial, not secret releases or political cover-ups. Communities should be equipped with better security infrastructure, trained local vigilante networks that coordinate with lawful authorities, improved surveillance, and emergency response systems. The military must focus on intelligence rather than brute force, targeting armed groups while protecting civilians. Beyond security, Nigeria's deep wounds require reconciliation. Faith leaders, both Muslim and Christian, must be empowered to lead peace dialogues, rebuild trust, and diffuse extremist narratives. The roots of violence are not purely religious. They grow from poverty, inequality, corruption, and land competition. When young men have no jobs and see no justice, they become easy recruits for militias and extremist ideologies. Development, education, and governance reforms are as vital as military strength. On the international stage, America and other allies can play a constructive role. Sanctions alone may not bring peace, but strategic aid can, funding for displaced persons camps, trauma counseling, rebuilding churches and schools, and supporting farmers to return to their lands. International observers can help monitor human rights violations and push for transparency. Diplomatic engagement, rather than distant condemnation, may encourage real progress. For ordinary Christians in Nigeria, survival often depends on vigilance and community strength. Pastors now teach their congregations not only scripture but safety protocols, keeping emergency contacts, knowing escape routes, avoiding predictable patterns of worship when threats arise. Many churches have quietly hired security guards or formed internal safety teams. Others have turned to technology, using WhatsApp groups and mobile alerts to warn of nearby attacks. Women's groups and youth fellowships serve as information lifelines during crises. Yet amidst all this, faith remains unbroken. In the aftermath of the O massacre, survivors gathered in the ruins of their church, singing hymns through tears. One woman said, "They can destroy the building, but not the church. We are the church." Her words echo across Nigeria's troubled land, a testimony that persecution cannot silence belief. As Trump's statement circulated globally, it reignited a wave of advocacy. Religious freedom organizations in the United States renewed their campaigns for Nigeria, urging Congress to hold hearings. The U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom updated its recommendations. American pastors began praying publicly for their Nigerian brethren. In Washington, policy analysts debated whether Nigeria's military cooperation with the U.S. should be reconsidered unless measurable progress was made on human rights protection. The discussion was far from symbolic. It had the potential to reshape diplomatic relations. Still, for those living in Nigeria's danger zones, hope rests not in foreign politics but in divine preservation. Many Christians believe that God Himself is their defender. Nightly prayer vigils continue. Testimonies of miraculous escapes circulate through villages. Families who fled moments before an attack, children found alive under collapsed roofs, militants who dropped their weapons after visions of fire or conviction. These stories, whether spiritual or coincidental, sustain faith in a land that bleeds. To tackle this issue comprehensively, experts propose a multi-layered strategy. First, the Nigerian government must admit the religious dimension of the killings instead of masking it as mere banditry. Acknowledgement is the first step toward justice. Second, state security forces need better training and equipment to respond quickly to rural attacks. Third, communities must be empowered through education, conflict resolution programs, and local mediation councils. Fourth, the judiciary must function independently. Every case of mass killing should be investigated transparently, and culprits prosecuted publicly. Fifth, the media must report accurately and ethically, avoiding narratives that inflame division. Finally, international allies must support Nigeria in ways that strengthen institutions rather than deepen dependency. For Christians wondering how to protect themselves, the key lies in preparation and unity, not retaliation. Believers should build early warning systems within their communities, keep contact with local security agencies, and maintain secure shelters for vulnerable families. Churches should consider security audits, controlled entry points, volunteer ushers trained in crowd management, and partnerships with local police. Above all, they must resist the temptation to respond with violence. Vengeance only fuels more bloodshed. The Christian response must remain rooted in prayer, advocacy, and peace-building. As this documentary closes, the question remains: will the world act? Will Nigeria's leaders listen? President Trump's bold words drew global attention, but the responsibility now lies with those who hold power inside the country. The killings cannot be ignored, and justice must not be delayed. For the thousands who have lost fathers, mothers, and children, acknowledgement and accountability are the first rays of healing. The story of Nigerian Christians is one of pain, resilience, and faith. From Benue's burned villages to Borno's dusty camps, their voices cry out not for revenge but for recognition. They seek safety to worship without fear. They seek a nation where faith is not a death sentence. And as the world watches, perhaps the moral weight of their suffering will stir new action. As one pastor from Plateau State said, "We forgive, but we cannot forget. Our blood speaks, but our faith is louder." The persecution of Christians in Nigeria is not merely a political issue, it is a spiritual test for the world's conscience. Whether through Trump's call, international diplomacy, or local courage, change begins when truth is spoken without fear. The time to act is now. For in every burnt church, every orphan child, and every grieving mother, there lies a reminder of what faith truly costs, and why silence is no longer an option.